shaft, maybe what they call it, I don't know. But I'm just looking over here. This is a route, the route that just branched off. That is, I looked into it, and it's not a part of Route 6. What happens is it goes as a paved road for a little while, and then you can kind of see up those trees up at the hill. It turns to dirt and kind of winds along the hill. I tried to take it one of my trips, and just from driving it, I can kind of tell that it was probably never part of Route 6, or never part of this original highway. But anyway, I looked into talking about the shafts. I looked into the slot shaft, and it's one of those where it's at least 100 feet deep. I couldn't see the bottom. It's reinforced with planks with wood, at least at the top. You may think, oh, it's dangerous. It is dangerous, except that one was covered with a steel gate. The steel gate wasn't locked down. You could have pulled it off. I'm not going to pull it off. I have no interest in going into this mine. But it looked like a very deep shaft. It looked like they had worked it within the past maybe 20 or 30 years. Probably not since then. And that's kind of the case with a lot of those mines out there. A lot of them look like they had been worked in, kind of modern times, the 20th century, even into the 1950s and 60s, but not much farther past that. And you can tell that by the machinery they had on site. That was, maybe 1940s, 1950s, 1960s. Also, some of the materials where it's, there's no modern materials, but it's modern enough that you can tell it was from the 20th century and not from the 19th century. So it was cool to go around and see the shafts, especially that deep shaft. I'm glad I did that because I drove around the edge of Manhattan looking for mines, and they had a couple of shafts, but they were all dynamited. They had all been shut off. But if you drive around that region, and I only went so far, I should add that I went up a dirt road on the other side of town. Basically, there's one paved road through town, and then it turns to dirt and goes into the national forest, or you can go on another road and go up into the hills, and that's also dirt. And it just kind of gradually deteriorates. I ended up going up on a road. It wasn't too bad. I have a pretty low car. That's one reason why it's quieter. But that means I also bottom out a lot easier, and it was bottoming out on some of the grass in the road. So it wasn't a great road to take my car on. I stopped. Luckily, I was able to. I made it up to a tailings pile and a couple of shafts right next to each other, and was able to turn around and just went back down. I was looking for an area I could see on the satellite view where, what's this up here? Alright, well, we're going to get over for this. So I was looking for something on the satellite view that looked like not only some shafts, some abandoned shafts, but also some old foundations. Slow down a little bit here. Street sweeper? I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on there. CHP talking to the road crew. Just blocking the lane. Alright. That's nice. No, it's cool to see that kind of stuff. I've seen shafts before in Arizona. They're usually either gated off or dynamited. You can kind of tell where they used to be. I don't know that I had actually looked down into an open shaft like that before. So that was kind of cool to see. Certainly not a place you'd want to fall down. Not only, it's kind of one of those where you kind of hope that you die on impact at the bottom, because otherwise you're just going to be agonizing in there for days, probably until you die of dehydration or blood loss or whatever, because no one's going to find you. I guess it's possible someone could have seen my car on the highway and then walked in there. But if you drove all the way up to the mine shaft, kind of hit your car, no one would ever see you. for days and days. It's a real isolated area. It's real rural. I only saw a couple of cars actually driving on the roads when I was out there. But yeah, I think that was worth the trip. You know, I had never been up there. I'd been up to a very similar town near a state park, a town called Ione. Not to be confused with the Ione in California, but rather it's adjacent to the Berlin State Park. Berlin itself is a ghost town that the state of Nevada has sort of refurbished and turned into a state park. They rehabbed and rebuilt some of the houses. There was an old stamp mill that they rebuilt to sort of follow the specs of a stamp mill at that time. I don't know what that noise was. So yeah, there's some cool stuff out there. That's the thing. It's and there's a lot of ghost towns in Nevada, and it's really more of a matter of you know, what can you not, you know, where can you go, you know, as far as permission. And there are some ghost towns. For instance, there was one I was looking at closer to Tonopah on the west side of this mountain range, and it looks like it's either been completely swallowed up by a pit mine, or the pit mine has swallowed up the access roads to it. The only way to get to those access roads is actually through the mine, so I wouldn't be able to do that, which is kind of unfortunate. I mean, that's public land. You know, you should be able to get out there, but you know, I guess there's public land and there's easements, and you know, that's where you get into the tricky stuff in California. You know, there's some land that's public and technically open for public use, even for hunting, but it's mostly surrounded by private land. And I know specifically there's an area of land in, I think it's actually in San Benito County. Maybe it's even in San Luis Obispo County, but it's south of me, northeast of San Miguel, and it's kind of notorious for there is an easement leading into it from the road, but it's really hard to tell where that easement is. And the guy who has the land there is well connected politically in Monterey County, will not hesitate to call the police on you and get you arrested for trespassing. You know, I kind of read about that plot of land. It sounds like maybe a area to avoid if you're trying to hunt, especially if you're trying to hunt. And that's the main thing that these people are looking for. You know, if I went up there just to kind of walk around, I think I could probably get away from it. But if I was carrying, you know, if I had, you know, camo jacket on, and a hat, and a hunter's cap, and you know, had a you know, a rifle or a bow, you know, it's probably, you know, and I was going up there to hunt boar or deer or whatever, I think it's much more likely to get charges pressed on you. People, you know, in that area, you know, because obviously the animals aren't going to stick to the public land, know that, you know, by taking the animals from the land, that public land, it takes those animals away from them, which is greedy. But that's just the way it is in California. I feel like California's, you know, the rancho system and the land grants kind of mess things up for California. I feel like if the land situation in California was more like that of Nevada, California would be a little bit better off. But nonetheless, we are back in California. Well, I am back in California at this point, going down 395. I guess I should point out some sights. We just passed a rest area, and you can see lots of lava rocks and lots of mountains above me. I don't know the names of any of the peaks. We're, I believe, well past Mount Whitney, which is one of the only mountains I know out here. That's the tallest mountain in California. It was once the tallest mountain in the United States before the U.S. Annexed Alaska. Denali became the largest peak. I Actually, maybe that's Mount Whitney right in front of us.